الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد. Brothers, sisters, and children, today inshallah I'll be speaking about a very important topic, a topic about the people that Allah loves the most. That is the people of a lot of taqwa, the highest level of taqwa, and the people are called the muttaqeen. So in Surah Al-Imran, the third surah of the Quran, it is mentioned in ayah 134, Allah talks about Jannah. For those righteous people that are the ones for muttaqeen with the highest level of taqwa are the ones that have a place in Jannah. And then Allah continues and talks about this very important, three important qualities of the muttaqeen. And this is the ayah 134. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاذِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah talks about, this is a very powerful ayah in the book of Holy Quran. Allah talks about, number one, the ones that who spend in the sake of Allah. Second, inshallah, we're going to be talking about the ones that swallow the anger, the one that restrain from anger. And third, which is probably the toughest one, is to lovingly forgive the person that doesn't deserve to be forgiven. So inshallah, let's start with the first. These are people that give in the good time and bad. And Allah does not mention anything about wealth here. It is anything that we do in terms of giving to the deen, to the ummah, to the fikr of ummah, give time, their adulthood, their childhood, and also money when they have some, right? So there's a story during the time of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. There was a pious man who used to pray all night, all day, up on the rooftop. And everyone knew he was a very, he was filled with taqwa, the highest level of taqwa. He was the muttaqeen of Allah. And there were several people that ran to him one day and said, there are people worshiping a tree. So he got really upset. He picked up an axe and he started rushing towards that tree because his intention was, I need to cut that tree because this is not what Allah has right in his book. So he found Shaitan on his way there in a form of an old man. And the Shaitan started arguing with him. Why are you going to cut that tree when Allah hasn't ordered you to cut that tree? Right? He said, let it be, and let Allah send a prophet down to cut that tree. And they got into an argument, and eventually the pious man beat him down and sat on him and was about to slit his throat. And then he said, wait, I will give you something that's going to help you here and in the afterlife. And he said, what is it? He said, I will give you 2 dinars daily. 2 dinars daily if you don't cut that tree today. And he accepted. So he went home and he was given the 2 dinars. The next day, he never got paid the 2 dinars. So he was super upset, and he took his axe and he was rushing down to cut that tree yet again. And guess what he saw? He saw the old man again in the form of Shaitan. The old man, again, they went back and forth, but this time he went because he didn't have the 2 dinars that he was promised. So they fought again, but this time the old man knocked him down. The old man knocked him down, so he questioned the old man and said, what happened to my strength today? Why couldn't I get you down like I did yesterday? You're so much older than me. I'm way stronger than you. I'm way powerful than you. Shaitan replied and said, yesterday your intentions were pure. Your intentions were to cut down that tree for the sake of Allah. And today, you were upset because you were not given the two dinars that I promised you. So, brothers, think of us running after the dunya. This is a small example of even back in the day that happened. What do we want today? We want better and bigger things. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having everything that you want in life. But also thinking about what does the akhirah look like. It is something that's only going to be going down with you when, inshallah, it is our turn to go. I'll share this is a story that hits me right here. So a couple of months ago, Allah blessed me to go for Umrah. And it was a great time. We went with a couple of brothers. And one of the brothers I connected with, built a great bond and found out in the month of Ramadan, this past Ramadan, the second week of Ramadan, the brother's youngest brother passed away. He was only 22 years old. May Allah give him Jannah. And as we got to know a little bit about the situation, the boy made $12,000 last year. And out of that 12, he donated $9,000 to the masjid. That is a lesson for all of us. That is a lesson for all of us to really comprehend and think about what we have today is not ours. What we have today belongs to who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Story of Ali radiallahu and Fatima. They were sitting down and they were ready to break their fast. And 3 days in a row, someone knocked on their door. And when they opened the door, whoever it was wanted either money or food. And they only had a little bit of food to break their fast from. And they were obviously hungry all day long. Guess what they did? They gave every piece of food that they had to the poor that knocked on their door. That's giving in the sake of Allah. There was a young orphan that wanted to build a wall between his house and someone else's house, the neighbor's house. But in the middle, there was a palm tree that was getting in the way. He either needed to chop that palm tree down, or he needed to purchase it or just have it, so it was part of his property. So he went to the man that owned the palm tree and said, "Can you give me this palm tree?" The man said, "No, I will not." "Can I buy this palm tree from you?" "No, you cannot buy this palm tree." So he said, "I'm going to go and complain to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam." So he goes to the Prophet and complains that this man is not either selling me or giving me his tree. So he said, "Bring me that man here." So the boy brings the man over to the Prophet, and Prophet asks the same question. "Give him the tree." He said, "Prophet, I cannot do that. That is my haqq." He said, "Okay, sell me the tree." He said, "I cannot do that also." And the Prophet said, "I will cut you a deal. If you give him that tree, I will guarantee a palm tree in Jannah for you." He said, "I still will not do that." So as this conversation was happening, Abu Dahda was listening to the conversation. And he came over and he asked the Prophet and said, "Prophet, would this deal of having that one tree in Jannah would still stay for me if I was to buy this tree?" He said, "Absolutely." So he made a deal with the owner of that palm tree and said, "I have a garden of 400 plus palm trees in Medina. For that garden, you have to give me this tree." And they agreed. So now Abu Dahda is going home. He was a great businessman. He gets home, he gets closer to home, and he sees his wife and the kids playing in the garden. You know what he's thinking at that point? He's like, "Man, I just made a deal. Now we don't have this garden." So he goes and tells his wife. He says, "I made the best transaction of my life." And she asked, "What was it?" He said, "We have a tree, a palm tree in paradise in exchange for our garden." She said, "That is the best transaction you've ever made." SubhanAllah. And that's just another example of us realizing and thinking, what are we doing here versus what is to come later on, inshallah. So the second piece, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, restraining from anger. We are just angry people out here. Everyone gets angry. Maybe this morning we were angry. Maybe last night we were angry at our spouses or at our bosses during conference calls or whatever the case might be, at our teachers, right? Some kids are here from school, right? So I'm sure there's some of that going on today. And you think of the children that play basketball. What happens when you get fouled? You get upset, you get mad. What do you want to do? You want to foul that guy? Probably want to do a flagrant foul afterwards because you're so upset, so mad, right? But realistically, we can't do that. We have to control our anger, right? The second piece is, it's funny, it happened right now. I was driving here with my dad, and part of it, what I was going to talk about is when we get taken over by another car, right? What do we do today? We speed up, we roll our windows down, and we're saying some beautiful things to the person that cut us off. It's happened to me, right? Or we're pressing the horn for 15 seconds to really get the message across. But what you're really doing is you're distracting the other drivers on the road and putting their lives in danger and your lives in danger, right? So that's what happens. And it's funny, today we're literally driving, probably a half hour ago we're driving, and this guy's just going from one lane to another and trying to take over a car. I'm like, dude, this is a one-lane thing. What are you trying to do? Where are you trying to go? And there's a red light in front of you. I don't understand, right? But that is a form of an anger. You want to get, maybe he was angry at something. He wants to get to from one to the next. Imagine when you go to someone's house. You go to someone's house and they prep the food all day long, right? They prep the food all day long. They were standing, cooking, sweating, what have you. And you pour the food in your plate and you take the first bite. And you're like, man, this is not to my liking, whether it has too much salt, not enough salt, or just not good for your taste buds. What do we do at that point? You're like, I don't want to keep eating this and savor this because my facial expressions are going to show that I don't like the food. And you don't want to be questioned from the host, hey, how's the food? When you're making faces, they're going to know the answer. What do? You swallow the food real quick so it doesn't stay on your tongue for too long so you don't savor it for too long. That is the same way Allah is teaching us to swallow our anger. What happens when we're angry? We become red. We start to grind our teeth. We start to make a fist. It shows in our eyes that we're angry. It happens. It happens. But the people of the muttaqeen, the people of Allah, the people with the highest level of taqwa are the ones that swallow their anger. There was a young boy who used to get angry all the time. And his father one day said, son, come over here. Here's a hammer, and here's a box of nails. And he took him to the backyard. And he said, every time you get angry, take this hammer and take this nail and hammer it into the fence. So day one, he hammered 37 nails into the fence. And as days progressed, eventually after a week, he was down to 0, and he got so excited. He said, I didn't have to nail anything today. I feel great. I'm not angry today, and anybody. So he gets excited, and he goes to his dad and says, Father, I was great today. I feel great. I didn't have to nail anything into the fence. And he goes, great job, but come with me. He goes, now, here's a tool. Now take out all these nails. Once he took out all these nails, he saw all bunch of holes on that fence. He said, son, the lesson here is all these holes are the people that you hurt, whether with your tongue or with your action, whether with your tongue or with your actions that hurt the other person because you were angry. Think about the damage we do to others when we're angry. Think about the children here. I'm part of that too, right? We say something to our parents. We say something to our mom or dad for something small. And that's how you leave your house. That's how we leave our house. We get someone angry and we leave our house. There's no guarantee that you're going to go back and see that person again. No guarantee whatsoever. So think about these examples. Think about us swallowing our anger, because there's nothing bigger than forgiving the next person after you. What are some of the solutions to controlling anger? In a hadith, Abu Dawud reported that Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to us, if one of you is angry while standing, sit down. If you're angry while sitting, lie down. That's an example of and a solution of how you can bring down your anger. The third, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, forgiving people out of love. Lovingly forgiving people. Not people that deserve to be forgiven. Not people that deserve to be forgiven. People that are not deserved to be forgiven are the ones that mean a lot to Allah. And He says, you forgive someone that is not to be forgiven, does not deserve to be forgiven, I will forgive you. I will forgive you. In a hadith, Hassan radiallahu anh, her servant was giving him water. And as he was pouring the water spilled. So Hassan radiallahu anh got upset. So the servant quickly recited the ayah. He said, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, that means restraining from anger. And Hassan radiallahu anh said, fine, I'm not angry anymore. Then he continued the ayah and says, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, they forgive out of love. That's what that means. He's like, you know what? I forgive you. Then he continued with the ayah and said, وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Then he says, go ahead, you're a free man. That's a great example of us forgiving the people that maybe harm us a little bit. We go home, right? We get angry, but we go to our work, we go talk to our secretary, our bosses, our people at work. We're having a great conversation. But a switch turns as soon as we walk home. And we're angry at life. Why couldn't you be angry like the way you are at home? Why do we have to be angry at home and make our people at home, our wives, our husbands, our children, punching bags? They don't deserve it. They don't deserve that. So I'll share a story that will probably relate to a lot of the youngsters here. Think about Kobe and Shaq. That was a one-sentence thing back in the day, right? Now, as most of you know, Kobe died in a plane crash a couple of years ago. And Shaq, to this day, regrets not talking to Kobe and talking it out with them, amongst them. They were playing together. They won a bunch of championships. But guess what? They did not get along. They had a lot of beef with one another. And Shaq never got the opportunity because they still had that regret, that resentment towards one another. And he failed, or Kobe failed also, to approach one another to ask for forgiveness. Now, if you read up on the news, look at some of the Twitter messages from Shaq, some of the small video snippets, he says he regrets not talking to Kobe and really letting him know how he felt about him. Because deep down inside, he felt a lot of great things about Kobe. This is probably the biggest story of them all, right? Abu Bakr Siddiq, radiyallahu anh, his daughter. He was the mother of all ummah, the wife of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was accused by a man that Abu Bakr Siddiq used to give money to, used to give allowance to. And he was accused, and Abu Bakr Siddiq, and that accusation, think about us as parents. If your daughter was accused, how much anger and rage you would have. How much anger and rage you would have, and what you would want to do with that person. And that was not just an accusation against Aisha, it was an accusation against the Prophet and the Deen of Islam. That's how big this scenario was. And guess what Abu Bakr Siddiq did? He just took the allowance from that individual, that accused. So next time we're in a situation where, should I forgive this person or not? Weigh yourself with what you have going on versus what Abu Bakr Siddiq went through and Aisha, and see which one weighs more. And if it's for us to forgive that person out of love, or continue to put that here, and you don't know what the life brings you. I just talked about a 22-year-old brother passing away. Just one example. Life is too short. Leave no regrets. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. So, the ayah 135, Allah talks about those that are muttaqeen are human beings. They do commit sin. They do commit sin. But they turn to Allah right away. They turn to Allah right away for forgiveness. When we go late to work, what happens? You know your boss is angry. What do? You put your head down, you go right to your cubicle, you turn out your laptop, and you're off and going, right? Or when it's report card day. It's report card day, and your parents are expecting all A's, right? But that's not what the report card says. You come home every day and you say, Assalamu alaikum, I'm home. How's everybody doing? Great. But the day of that report card, because it's not going to be what your parents are expecting, you're going to walk into the house. You're not going to say Assalamu alaikum. You're going to quickly put your head down and go upstairs and go to sleep. What happens when we disappoint somebody? We avoid them. We avoid them. You see something haram. We see something haram every single day. Whether we're talking to somebody, whether we see something on the billboard, whether we're texting when we're not supposed to, whether we're late up at night doing whatever, right? Those are things that we do. But guess who's in our ear? Shaitan is in our ear and saying, oh, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing fine. You're good. Don't worry about it. What? You're a two-faced person if you go pray. Why are you going to go pray? You're a sinner. Keep sinning. And Shaitan is in our ear, and we continue to do so. We continue to build that up. But the people of the muttaqeen, they turn the other way. They commit a sin. Yes, they do. But they turn to Allah right away and ask for forgiveness. There was a mother that I saw at a mall, and she was holding this boy's hand, little boy's hand. He was yelling and screaming, crying. He probably wanted something from a store, and his mom said no. So he got upset at him, and she gave him a little tap on the back, right, back of the head, and yelled at him, so the kid stopped crying. But he continued to hold on to his mother's hand. Why was he holding her hand? Because that's his comfort. He's not going to go to a stranger, 100 people that are walking in the mall, because he doesn't trust them. He doesn't go home with them. They don't feed him. They don't bathe him. They don't put him to bed. The mother does. That's the comfort that he had. So he continued to hold on to her hand. Brothers, sisters, children, that is what we need to do. After we commit a sin, who do we go to? We have to turn to our Lord. We have to pray. We have to ask for forgiveness. And continue to strengthen our iman and strengthen yourself from sin is to do sunnah and nawafil. You get a habit of doing sunnah and nawafil, you may miss a nawafil, but guess what? You still perform your sunnah. If you miss a sunnah one day, you still made your first prayer. That is enough. But on the other hand, if you're just one of those that skate by and do your fard, as soon as the Imam says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, the first thing you do, even before he says it, you're already up. You're rushing to get your shoes because you have game 7 going on at home that you want to get to. Right? Celtics and Milwaukee, I hope that's a game 7 because I want to watch that. Or you're going to go watch the Dallas and Suns game. That's going to be another good one. But that's what we're doing because we want to get there because we can't miss a minute of the game. But take 2 minutes and pray 2 sunnahs. And Allah says, those that skate by doing just the first prayer, they are safe from Allah's wrath. But those that do extra ibadah, these are the people that Allah loves. May Allah give us tawfiq to do more than just the first prayer 5 times a day. Ameen. And Allah closes it out with this passage by speaking about the muttaqeen are guaranteed Jannah. To summarize today's khutbah, brothers and sisters, we spoke about the qualities of the muttaqeen. The first one, وَالسَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ, spend in the sake of Allah. وَالْكَاذِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, swallow your anger. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, the one who pardon people, the one who lovingly forgive the people. May Allah give us tawfiq to be one of those muttaqeen, give us tawfiq to spend in the cause of Allah, in ease and hardship. May Allah give us tawfiq to restrain from our anger. May Allah give us tawfiq to lovingly forgive others. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إسرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على قوم الكافرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم الشافع أنت الشافي لا شفاء الشافك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. Ya Allah, please forgive our sins. Ya Allah, please forgive our parents. Ya Allah, please cure the sick, the ones that are not doing too well, the ones that are in the hospital, the ones in our home that are sick. Ya Allah, for those that are deceased, Ya Allah, please grant them the highest level of Jannah. Ya Allah, guide our kids on the right path. Ya Allah, for those that are suffering all around the world, make it easy for them. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم واستغفروه يغفر لكم واتقوه يجعل لكم من أمركم مخرجا.